Give moment now. Please wait after some time I am starting. Am I audible? Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this class we are going to learn about the transaction. So you can see that the today topic is transaction in the DBMS. So what is the lesson objective today? Student will be able to learn about the transaction in DBMS and acid property of the transaction. And lesson outcome means at the end of the this lesson, student able to explain the transaction in DBMS and acid property of the transaction. So what comes in your mind when you heard the word term transaction? You have to know that what is the logic behind it. So transaction is nothing but is a logical unit of work that represent real world event of any organization or enterprise where concurrency control is the management of the concurrent transaction execution. So this is a big definition. So when you want to define the transaction, I can say that transfer the money from account A to account B. is also considered a transaction. Okay. Am I audible? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So when you say the word transaction means I can say that the when you go for the commerce side, they are saying that the value of the both the party will be changed. This is also the one form of transaction. Here, if I go the transaction to
सर
transfer the,
एक्चुअली वेटिंग रूम में कोई वेट कर रहा है ज्वाइन करने के लिए क्लास.
this is the problem. Okay. So sometimes they ask the what is the meaning of the transaction. So we can say that transaction is the logical unit of work. Means the suppose if I want to go for the transfer the money from account A to B, obviously the two account must be exist there, balance must be exist there. But in case of transaction, when you go for the transaction, here the logical unit means what? If I click the button transfer the money, so automatically it will be transferred to the other account. Okay, other it will be transferred to the your other account there. But when I say that the how we can define the transaction in form of the DBMS, so transaction is the part of the logical unit of work, transferring the money from account A to account B. And no one say anything about if anyone waiting out in the waiting, they have to wait because already we are 15 minutes late. Okay. So here, what is the meaning of this logical unit of work? It is saying that if I want to transfer the money from A to B, so I know that the I have to log in account A, then I have to log into account A there from where I want to transfer the money. We require the number of both the account, yes, some code, UPI code will be there, then I am able to transfer the money there. The transaction is not dealing with the all the things that whether the person have the money, whether the person have the valid account number or not. So they will only deal with the whether the if I click the submit here for the submit here payment button, automatically things will be executed. So that is reason it is saying that the logical unit of the work, many unit of work is exist and this is logical unit means suppose you know that when I take the money from account A for 500 rupees and transfer to account B, so obviously 500 rupees debited from the account A and credited to account B there. It is saying that the this is at the unit of work. That the transaction is the logical unit of work that represent the real world event. So, transferring the money from account A to account B is the real world event, okay, of any organization or enterprise. So it is a part, whereas concurrency control is the management of concurrent transaction execution. So what is the meaning of this line concurrency control and concurrent transaction? Anyone? If you remember the class of the first class of the DBMS, I said that the at the time of the transaction, I can ask that what is the meaning of concurrency and what is the meaning of concurrency control. Anyone remember? And
So when multiple users access at the same time.
yes, multiple user accessing the data at the same time, I can say this is a concurrent transaction. And
Yes,
we
sir.
have we have to manage this one by using the some technique concurrency control management techniques are there that become the concurrency control. Okay, so we know that how we can maintain the concurrency control. I said that the locking protocol is available there. By using that, we can manage it. So when you go for the definition of transaction, to be specific, that you can say transaction is a logical unit of work which is related with the real world event and where the concurrency control will be applicable. In this way, we can define in short that, or you can say that it is a logical unit of work that represents the real world event of any organization or enterprise where concurrency control is the management of concurrent transaction execution. So in the process, many transactions can be executed at the same time. So how you can maintain? You can use the concept of the concurrency control. Okay. So transaction processing system execute database transaction with large database and hundred of concurrent users. Concurrent means the simultaneously same data is accessed by the many users known as concurrent access by the user. And they have also given the examples of railway air reservation, railway and the air reservation system, banking system, credit card processing. So these are the example of the your concurrent stock market monitoring, supermarket inventory, and checkout and so on. Okay. So earlier one they have given the formal definition. Now they are going for the your definition that is related with the your database. So when I say the transaction, we can say transaction is a logical unit of work of the database processing that include one or more access operation. Okay. So here, first one we have know that the when you say that the in both the definition you can see that they are saying that the logical unit of work. It not physically exist, but logically we are able to perform the task. That when I take the money from account A to account B, so obviously the money will be deducted from the account A and it will be credited to the account B. That okay. So this is the logical unit will be there. So transaction is the logical unit of work of database processing that include one or more database access operation. Mainly they can go for the read and write. Okay. So here you can see that these operation can be include retrieval, read, write. Read means retrieval, insertion means write, deletion, and modification. That a transaction must be either completed or aborted. Means if anything will be started, that will be the reach to the complete state. If it not reach the complete state, then it will be the aborted. So later on in these classes, we are going to know the life cycle of the transaction. So at that part, we can aware about the life cycle of the transaction. So for the time being, if anybody asks that what is the transaction, then you can say the transaction is the logical unit of work that work of the database processing which have read and write operation to perform the specific tasks of the user where the concurrency control will be the required. In this way, you can define. Do not stick to the your definition of the book. You can define by your own. Okay. So you can see that these are the different type of operation. Instead of the write or read, they can perform that. They can retrieve, they can insert, they can delete, update, commit, and rollback. What is the meaning of this? All are familiar from your end. You know, retrieve means we are retrieving something. Insert means we are inserting something in database. Delete means deleting. Update is the modification. Commit means what? Commit is the same thing. It will be save the work done permanently. Means if transaction make any changes. Suppose I have transferred the money A to B. That so here I can say that money will be deducted from account A. It will be saved, and money will be credited to account B. It will be saved. When it will be saved? When the transaction reach to the commit state. Commit means at the end of the transaction, whatever the changes made by the transaction, that will be stored in a non-volatile devices or you can say stable devices. So at that cases, we can say the commit is applicable there. After that, we can go by the rollback. Rollback is saying that suppose we have transferred the money from account A to B, and due to network failure, money deducted but not credited to account B. That according to property of the transaction, it is always committed, otherwise abort. So we know that after some time, my money will be revert back to the my account. Revert back means the rollback. Okay. So whatever operation they have done, when it is abort, it roll back to the come to the original stage of the transaction. Okay. So this is the true difference between the commit and rollback. So it is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we are going for the these are the transaction life cycle. You can see that. So it is begin is there.
স্যার এই যে কমান্ডগুলো আগে আপনি যেটা পড়লেন ওগুলো কি মানে আমরা যে 3 লেভেল স্কিমা পড়ি সেটার সঙ্গেই কানেক্টেড?
This one.
স্যার মানে আমরা যেটা একটা যে কোনো ইয়ের জন্য ট্রানজাকশনের জন্য বা যে কোনো অর্গানাইজেশনের জন্য আমরা যে 3 লেভেল স্কিমা পড়ি, মানে যে কোনো ওয়েবসাইটে একটা ভিউ লেভেল যেটা আমাদের ইউজারের জন্য, আর
না না
যেখানে আমরা আপডেট করতে পারবো না,
এইগুলো
সেটা
সেম
আরেকটা দেখছি।
আপডেট এখানে তো দিজ আর দ্য অপারেশন অফ দ্য ট্রানজাকশন। ওকে,
স্যার মানে এটা কি
this is
ইন্টারকানেক্টেড?
yeah, this is a specific one. I mean, suppose I want to perform a transaction. Okay, so I don't know that I can log into the my account. So this become the your application level, and within the application level, I perform some query there. Okay, within the application level, I
ইয়েস
can
স্যার।
perform. This become the your conceptual level. That after that, it become the your uh, internal level. That so suppose I want to
ইয়েস।
retrieve the value. So obviously, I know that value will be stored in your hard disk. That so I can retrieve when I using the cloud concept, so they have stored the value in some other location in the cloud that from where I can retrieve the value. So these are just a specific one part. So if I say the house, within the house, I can say that the one fan in AC are running. So this is a part. If I say that the whole database, and within the whole database, there is a one logical unit of the database. Okay.
ওকে স্যার।
So now you can see that the transaction which successfully complete its execution is set to have been a committed. Commit means if the transaction done all the tasks that, so it will be said that I already said that it is a committed state means suppose transaction start, it perform different operation. After that transaction end. So at the end it will be go to the commit state. If commit means the your transaction will be write something, whatever the changes made by the transaction that will be write on a stable storage that cannot be deleted. It can be retrievable at any time. Okay. So that is that state is said as the committed state of the transaction there. So obviously you know that in life cycle of human beings transaction also begin means it start the life. Okay. After that when begin it become the active transaction is active. Suppose transaction want, so here it perform the different type of operation like read and write. Okay. It perform read and write operation. And after the perform successfully read and write operation, it will be go to the partially committed. So anyone tell me the why directly we are not going to the committed state, why we are going to the partially committed? Any idea?
স্যার যদি ট্রানজাকশনটা মাঝখান থেকে অ্যাবর্ট করতে হয় তাহলে পুরোপুরি যাতে
About
কমিটেড না থাকে।
about তো আছে এখানে partially committed টা কেন committed direct to from the active I can go to the committed state. Why I am going to the partially committed? দেখো, so when the transaction active that suppose you know that the suppose many resource required by the transaction. Okay. Suppose I want to data item A1, data item A2, data item A3, many things will be required. And suppose I have taken the data and perform my operation. After that, I am going to write. So when I going to write, it means the your stable storage device memory must be available. Suppose I want to download some movie there where the my space is at 300 MB and movie size is 500 MB. It is not possible to store there. The partially committed stage is saying that the when you can start the transaction. Okay. So it will be after the read write operation completed when I'm going to write the things in your memory or stable storage that will be checked whether the space is free or not. If the space is free, then it will be go to the direct partially to the committed. If the space is not free, then you can see that from the partially it is the, also the one line that fail. Fail state after the fail it will be go to the abort and after the abort it will be go to the end state. The partially committed mainly deal with the things where we can check whether the your register, whether the device, whether the memory, whether other things are available or not. If it is available, so from the partially committed, it can go to the directly to the committed. If not, then go to the fail, and after that go to the abort, and after the abort, it go to the end of the transaction. So this is the your figure of the, or you can say life cycle of transaction. And suppose sometime transaction is active and I want to resource R1, R2. But unfortunately, I am not getting the resource of R2. So obviously it will be go to the direct to the fail state without any performing any write and read operation. After the fail, we know that the abort state is there. After the abort, it will be end. So according to rule that when transaction will be start, it will be the either complete one or aborted one. So here, if I go in positive way, means I perform read and write operation. If I perform the read and write operation, read and write, then I can go to the partially committed. Space is available. Then I can go to the committed. This is the end. So this is the ideal case. Second one is saying that I have performed the active is there, and suppose the transaction resource want, suppose R1, R2, R3, they are not available. So from active it go to the fail. From the fail it go to the abort, and for the abort it will go to the end there. So this is the your case, worst case. Best average case is that suppose perform the read write operation, went to the partially committed, and after that I can see that the space is not available. So from that I can go to the fail, and then you can go to the abort, and after the abort you can go to the end. So it is clear to everyone.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Now the every transaction we know that the acid property I said that the A for the your atomicity, C for the consistency, I for the isolation, and D for the durability. So transaction must have the following four property called the acid property of the transaction to ensure the database remain stable state after the transaction is executed. Means that if this property will be satisfied by the transaction, then your database will be the stable state after the transaction is executed. Otherwise, it will be not. What is the atomicity? So from the property, you can see that atomicity is saying that the means either all or successfully or none. Already said that if I suppose doing this transfer, suppose from this one to two, I want to transfer the suppose 700. Okay. So means either all means the your transaction will be the all, otherwise it will be not that. So if the money deducted from this one and credited to this one, so it is successful. I can say it is okay. But if suppose due to link failure, it is not money deducted but not credited to account B, so it will be the unsuccessful. So this type of things will be not allowed. We have to roll back to the our original state. The atomicity from the atom means one, presenting the single. Is saying that the when the atomicity property will be there, it means that the transaction will be the all successful and non-successful. That means the if transaction will be start, it must be the committed, otherwise it will be abort state or non-state there. Consistency. So consistency is saying that the suppose before the execution of the your transaction. I'll show you some example here. You can see the consistency here. So consistency is the saying that the before consistency I can show the example of atomicity. You can see this part. Let's assume that the following transaction T consists of the T1 and T2. I mean, there are two transactions are there. Just I've given example. A consists of rupees 600 and B consists of rupees 300. That okay. At the beginning, A have the balance is the 600 rupees and the B have the 300. Suppose I want to transfer the rupees 100 from account A to B. So we know that the after the transaction from A to B means the at the end my B value will be 700. So B value will be the 200 and A value will be the 700. No, transfer the account A to B. So sorry. The value of A will be the 500 and B will be the 400. Okay. So after the completion of transaction, A consists of rupees 500 and B consists of the 400. But if the transaction T fail after the completion of transaction T1, but before the completion of transaction T2, so then the amount will be deducted from A but not added to the B. Okay, it is saying that when you follow the atomicity property, this type of inconsistency in database will be not allowed. So this show that the inconsistent database state, in order to ensure the correctness of the database state, the transaction must be executed in entirety. And the atomicity is saying that when the transaction is started, it must be completed, committed, reached to the committed state. Otherwise, it will be abort and start from the beginning after the rollback there. Now you can see the consistency. So consistency, if you remember this definition, it is saying what? Ensure bringing the database from one consistent state to another consistent state. Ensuring bringing the database from one consistent state to the another consistent state. It is saying that when you go for the database, your database at the beginning, if the database at the beginning in consistent state, after the execution, it must be in a consistent state. How we can see here. This the integrity constant maintained so the database is consistent before and after the transaction. Suppose uh, before the transaction my database in correct state. After the transaction, I can see that the suppose I can give example of this one. You can see. Suppose there are two accounts there. 600 is initial value. Suppose there is one account. Okay. I know that 600. So suppose that there is the one account that I have the 600 rupees and I want to add the 300. Okay. So obviously my value will be show the 900. If the my value will be show suppose 800. So what I can say that my database before the starting of the transaction 600 is the correct state, but after the execution of transaction it is showing the wrong operation due to certain mistake. It is showing the 800 rupees. So it is not correct. The consistency is saying that it maintained. It is the integrity constant that maintained before transaction. It will be consistent. After the transaction, it must be the consistent. एक minute. Okay. So consistency state is saying that the execution of transaction will leave a database in either its prior stable stage or new stable state. Mean the suppose after the starting if the database is stable, and after the execution of this one it will be also stable. If suppose due to some failure occurred that, so it roll back. Means that you can see this line either in prior state or you can say new stable state. If the database is correct, means after the execution, before the execution and after the execution database is correct, so it is okay, no problem. Means I want to add the 300 in this account and my balance is showing that the 900, so it is okay to me. But if I want to add 300 and my balance is showing like this one, it is not possible. So it will be the incorrect state that. The consistency property of database state that every transaction see a consistent database instant. I mean the and also ensure that when I want to perform any operation, all the transaction will get the consistent state. Okay, it doesn't mean that I am giving the consistent value, yeah, correct value to transaction A and wrong value to transaction B. No, here it is saying that whether the transaction start the task, all the data transaction will be receive the consistent state from the database. So I want to transfer the money, so I can say that whatever the last balance will be there, it will be so there. No, otherwise, suppose I have last balance, I have checked it is suppose 1,500 rupees. Now the sometime it will be 1,400 rupees. No, until unless I make any changes, it will be not show the 1,400. It will show the 1,500 for the all the transaction. And the transaction is used to transfer database from one consistent state to another consistent state. So it is the same line. If you read that the before and after database must be inconsistent, it is saying that. Okay, so suppose the transaction will be there. So a transaction must satisfy the atomicity property and transaction must be satisfied the consistency property. What is third one is that? Third one is the your isolation. You can say that isolation ensure that the transaction is isolated from one other transaction. I mean, suppose I have given the example that suppose many users are accessing the Facebook there. So many users are there. So ensure that the one transaction is not aware about the second one. Which one is accessing the party that it is not aware. Isolated means the different there. Logically they are different. They are accessing the value there, but one is not aware about the second one. Suppose you say million of users accessing the Facebook at the same time. So all are not aware about the each others. How it is possible? This is possible by the isolation property. The isolation property is saying that the task done by the one transaction is not aware yet not known to the other transaction. Okay. We can see the isolation. It shows the data which is used at the time of execution of transaction cannot be used by the second transaction until the first one is completed. There. Okay, means the transaction is executing that the so that the other transaction will be not participate in that part. Suppose I have using the item A there, so no other person can. Suppose I am accessing my account, so no other person will be allowed to access my account there at time. When I access my account freely there, and so and then I can add the from other place. Suppose we have seen that now. Suppose have the only one device logging there. If I want to log in the same by using the same account to the other, that prompt message will become that you already logged into some other account. It is saying that the isolation means the it will be isolated. Means that if one transaction is working, that the second transaction will be finished after the completion of the first one. If it is held by the if data is held by the first transaction. In isolation, if transaction T1 is being executed and using the data item X, then that data item cannot be accessed by the any other transaction T2 until the transaction T1 ends. Same thing. Because if I at the same time, if the many user accessing the same database, so there is chance that the incorrect value will be read by the other transaction. Later on in these classes, I will show the problem. What are the problem we can face due to the concurrency control? Okay. If you remember the classes of the DBMS, I said that loss update problem, deadlock problem. You remember that I have discussed something in that class. The concurrency control subsystem of the DBMS enforce the isolation property. Okay. And suppose the example it is giving that the if a transaction T1 is being executed and using the data item X, the data item cannot be accessed by any other transaction from T2 to T1 until the T1 ends there. This isolation property ensures the concurrency control subsystem of the DBMS. So sometime I can say that by using the isolation property, we can also go for the concurrency control. Now the durability means what? Durability is saying what? Durability is saying that the means once a transaction has been committed, it will be remain so even the event of the error, power losses, etc. So as I said that suppose when the transaction is to committed state, then if the transaction is to the committed state, then it will be write the changes made by the transaction in the stable storage. Okay, in the stable storage, the changes will be done there. So these changes will be done in stable storage and non-volatile. So if some failure will be occur, we are recover back the value of the transaction from that one. The durability means the you can say that the how much your transaction will be preserve the updated value. This is the meaning of durability. So it is saying that when the transaction is to the committed state, then whatever the changes done by the transaction, they can write in a non-volatile storage and the recovery devices that even the after a failure, power losses, event of the error like system error, your hard disk failure, network failure, like many error, but still be able to recover the data. So this is the meaning of the this part. Suppose we have used some device, I have deleted some file. Okay, I know that the deleted file also recovery from the some other part. So that is the meaning of durability. Durability property of a transaction indicate the performance of database consistent state. If the state that change made by the transaction are permanent. Permanent means the when the transaction will be reached to the committed state, it will be the permanent there. Okay. So it is saying that when the transaction is the perform the database, when the durability property of transaction indicate the performance of database consistent state, it state that changes made by the transaction are permanent. Okay, whatever the changes done by the transaction is the permanent. They cannot be lost by either system failure or by the erroneous operation of faulty transaction. As I said that now, even after the failure, it cannot be lost. You can see that. When the transaction is completed, a database reach a consistent state, and that state cannot be lost even if the event of system failure. If whatever the failures are there, if the transition reach to the consistent state, that database will be write to the stable storage, non-volatile, and the recovery devices. Even the failure of the any other thing, it is able to recover. So this is the meaning of the durability. Durability property is the responsibility of the recovery subsystem of the database. Why we can use the durability for the recovery process? Suppose I have lost all the file. From the recovery, I can reach the state and get the file there. Okay. So it is clear to everyone what is the property of the transaction. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now we are going to the second part, PPT number 28. Now you can see the concurrency control. I said that the concurrency mechanism we are going to learn. So concurrency control in DB method. So when you cover this topic, so you can obviously learn about what is the meaning of concurrency control. Okay. So what is the concurrency control? So from the word, many of your friends also described that the in the concurrency control, the multiple transaction can be executed simultaneously, or you can say that more than one transaction accessing the same database at same time is known as the concurrency control, concurrency access. It may be affect the transaction result. It is highly important to the maintain the order of execution of those transactions. So problem of the concurrency controls are many. Several problems can occur when the concurrent transactions are executed in uncontrolled manner. Following are the three problems in the concurrency: loss of date, dirty read, and unrepeatable read. What is loss of date? See this part. So there are two transactions are executing the value. Okay. So here loss update means the whatever the update done by the transaction, it is lost. Okay. Lost. So when two transactions that access the same database item contain their operation in the way that make the value of some database item incorrect, then the loss update problem occur. So now you can see, suppose these are the two transactions. Transaction A, so transaction X and transaction Y. Okay. It is showing the time stamp T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. Okay. Means that suppose if I say this is a 10 a.m., 10 a.m., 10:20 a.m., 10:40, 10:50, like that. So at the time T2, it read the A. You can see the item is same here. You can see there. Suppose the A initial value is the suppose 500. Okay. So both the transaction X have the 500. This also have the 500. Okay. But they have read the value at the different time. After that, suppose here A added the 100. And at the time T5, it is also added the 100. Yeah, 1000. Okay. So what will be the actual value? Actual value will be the your 1600. But it is lost object means the suppose at T4, this at the he read the value 500, then add 600, it become the 600. But initial value of this transaction is the 500. So it will be read only 500 from this database and add 1000 here. It become the 1500. So whatever the update done by this transaction at time T4 is override by this transaction. So your actual value will become 1500 instead of the 1600. Why? Because the whatever the update done by the at the time T4 is override by the time T5 there. Suppose here the very simple example is that whatever the changes I have done at 10 a.m. Okay, that will be override by the 10:20 a.m. because if I done any change in my MS Word at 10:20 or 10:10, so which one will be preserved? Obviously 10:20. Here it is saying that if the transaction T4, whatever the update done by this one, because I said that one transaction is not aware about the second one. So whatever the value read by the transaction A, it is showing 500. It done the update here. It's saying the 500 update done at the update at time T5. So T5 is the later transaction. So updated value always preserved in database. So this type of problem occur in case of the concurrency. When I go for the concurrency, the lost update problem mainly saying that the update done by the one transaction is override by the later one transaction. Okay. Dirty read. Dirty read is saying that the it is mainly deal with the your different type of transaction that. Okay. So dirty read occur in the case when one transaction update an item of the database and then the transaction fail for some reason. Who is- Okay, so dirty read occur in the database when the, dir- the dirty read occur in the case when one transaction update an item of the database. Okay, and then the transaction fail from some reason. Suppose you have taken the someone taken from your money. After that, he disappear. Your money will be lost there. It is saying that the suppose this is the transaction X and transaction Y, and suppose the transaction A done some update in a database A at the time T2. Okay, and that value is read by the transaction X. But due to some problem, this transaction failed. So if transaction is failed, so it will be rolled back to the original state. As you know, the database property that database always will be consistent state. So if this will be rolled back, you have to also roll back this transaction, because this transaction depends on the transaction X depends on the Y. Why? Because he has read the updated value of the transaction Y here. If it is not read, so I can say it is not dependent, but it has read. Database always in consistent state. So if it is rolled back, it will be also rolled back. Suppose there is one more case like the transaction Z. Okay, and transaction Z read the suppose the value of the your transaction, this one. Suppose there is update value of the B. So if I read this one, so you can say cascading delete will be occur. If it will be fail, this one deleted and also this one deleted. So this type of delete is known as the cascading delete. Okay, failure of one transaction compelled to other transaction to delete the restart or roll back to the original state. So this type of read is said as the dirty read, means the suppose here read the value and unfortunately that transaction deleted, a fail. So according to database property that we have to roll back the all the transaction that. Okay. So this concept is known as the your dirty read. So it is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Inconsistent retrieval problem. You can see this transaction. Inconsistent retrieval problem means the suppose the database inconsistent retrieval problem is also known as the unrepeatable problem. Okay, when a transaction calculates some summary function over a set of data while the other transaction are updating the data, then inconsistency retrieval problem occurs. It is saying that the suppose I want to perform the summary function, summarization of the your transaction changes done by the transaction. At the same time, other transaction is updating the same value. So it may be possible that you can get not the updated data. It may be possible. So these type of things are known as the inconsistent retrieval problem. Okay. So here you can see that the example that the transaction T1 reads a record and then does other operation during the which transaction T2 update the record. You can see this figure. This transaction taken the value of account A1 and add the sum 200 and they read the account 2. After that, it is doing some other task. Meanwhile, you can see meanwhile when it is doing the some other tasks, suppose this is the main part. Here it has read that account A and account 2. And after that he is doing some other tasks. Okay. Meanwhile, I can see that this transaction update the value. You can see. What is the problem occur that he whatever the initial value it has kept, he can proceed with that value. It will not take the updated value of this transaction. Okay. It will be not taking the this value. So this type of things is known as the your inconsistent retrieval value. If a transaction T1 read the records and then does some other processing during the which the transaction T2 update the record. Now when the transaction T1 read the record, the new value will be inconsistent with the previous value. Okay. So when it will go to the that part, it becomes the your not the correct value there. Okay. So this type of problem is say that the your inconsistent value there or repeatable update value there. So you can see that now here the two transition it is taken A1 and A2. Okay. And after that it performing some tasks there. And at the T8 it is reading the value. But here T2 already updated na account 1. So this value will be not considered here. So whatever the value I will show here, it will be the your inconsistent value. So it is showing that you can say example and detail that. So it is already discussed that. So concurrency control problem, how we can solve? Here we have seen that these are the problem occur, but how we can solve the problem? Any idea? So when we want to solve the problem, we require the concept of the concurrency control protocols. Okay. Without the protocol, we are not able to solve the problem. Okay. So it is saying that the different type of protocols are there. So today I will discuss up to log-based protocol. Okay. The concurrency control protocol ensure the atomicity, isolation, and serializability of the concurrent transaction. The concurrency control protocol can be divided into the three categories. One is the log-based protocol, second one is the time stamp protocol, and third one is the validation-based protocol.
তো সিরিয়ালাইজেবিলিটি মানেটা কি?
Serializability means it is showing that the after which transaction will be executed. Suppose two or four, five transactions are there. Okay. So serializability ensure that the if the after this one this transaction serial number, you know that serial means what? One, two, three, four, like five. That
It's the
serial
ID number, right, sir?
not the ID number, transaction ID number will be there. Transaction ID means the transaction will be start. So obviously, transaction ID will be generated. What are the operation transaction can perform, it will be generated. The serializability is showing that it will be scheduled the transaction in different ways. Later on classes serializability, I will explain that. No problem.
The serial
Suppose the
number.
main, not the serial number, you can see many transactions are there. Okay. And out of the many transactions, I can see which one will be executed first, then after that this one, then after then this one. If I perform this technique, so I can ensure that the concurrency of the transaction will be maintained and I can get the optimal result there. The serializability is saying that it provides the serial number, or you can say sequence, not the serial number, sequence of the execution of the transaction to maintain the concurrency in the transaction. Okay. So
Yes,
obviously,
sir.
how I can mention the concurrency? So you know that if I divide that after this transaction, after this transaction, after this, that transaction will be executed. Then we can divide into the three part. Okay. So
Yes,
now
sir.
the lock-based protocol is there, time piston and validation. The lock-based protocol is the different modes are there. Okay. One is saying that the binary locks. Binary lock data item can either lock or unlock the states. Okay. So these are the not so much important. Share lock and the exclusive lock we can deal. So okay. So you can see the one and two. Share lock means what? You can read what is the meaning of share lock. Well, the share lock means the it also known as the read only lock. Means the when I want to perform the read operation, I can go for the that lock there. Okay. So in the share lock, data item can read the by the transaction. Means the other transaction can read the value. And I perform the share lock. Okay. Exclusive lock is showing is saying that the if the data item can be both read as well as written by the transaction. In share lock, I can only read the data item, but exclusive lock I can read or write. But problem in share lock, if I perform the share lock, other transaction can also go for the share lock because the reading the value not create any problem. Writing the value creating the problem. There. And suppose if I perform the exclusive lock, and suppose if lock is the exclusive means the only for that part. If the lock is exclusive lock, then I can say that if the this lock is there, and other transaction want to access or modify on the exclusive lock, they have to wait. But in share lock, they have to not wait. So they are the different type of locking protocols are there. One is a simplistic lock protocol and one the pre-claiming protocol. So simplistic protocol is saying that it is the simplest way of locking the data while transaction. Simplistic means the lock-based protocol allow all transactions to get the lock on the data item before insert or delete or update on it. So suppose transaction A required the five data items, so they can lock on it. Transaction required B required the five data item that will be locked on it. So in this way they can lock and then perform the operation. So this is a very simple technique, but it is not applicable because we know that the sharing will be not there, yeah, multiple access will be not there. So concurrency control will not have any meaning there. Okay, so that it is saying that it is very simple, but it is not applicable or feasible. Okay, so suppose it may be possible that some transaction want to value that is held by the some other transaction. Then they have to wait for the long period of time. So this is not applicable. Pre-claiming is saying that suppose I want to go for the operation, a five data item will be required. So first I can acquire five data item and then perform the operation. So this is also not applicable. Why? Because what we have seen that we don't know that how many item will be required by a transaction. Suppose we are going to purchase something. We know that I am going to purchase from T-shirt. I can also purchase the uh, jeans from the T-shirt and jeans also. So it is dynamic in changing nature. Dynamic nature is there. So same thing is saying that pre-claiming is not applicable because sometimes the user will be not have the predefined way that I can go in my account, I only check the balance and come out. No, I can also go for different type of services, different type of operation like that. If I go for purchase something, I can not go to specific task and purchase the part and return back. No, we can go to the many parts. So pre-claiming is not available. It is available if I go for the pre-claiming, it will not create any problem. But pre-claiming create the problem. Why? It is not feasible because in real world we don't know how many data item by a transaction will be required. So this is also not applicable that. Okay. Now this is a very important that two-phase locking protocol. It is saying that the one phase is growing phase where the new lock and data item may be acquired by a transaction but cannot be released. Okay, suppose the data item A X required the four data item A, B, C, and D. So it is just like the pre-claiming nature, but it's saying that it will be acquired A first, then acquired A or B. And suppose C is held by the some other transaction, it has to wait when the C release, it can acquire the A, B already acquired, it will be C. You can see that here we are acquiring the lock. After suppose D is also executed by some other transaction, it have to wait, and then we can acquire the D there. So you can see that phase is growing. First A, like this one, growing phase. You can see is growing. That is it is showing that the growing phase. Growing phase means in the growing phase a new block of data item may be acquired by the transaction, but none released. So you can see that here we have acquired data item. After that, when I reach to the all the acquiring done, I can perform the execution, and after the execution, I can release the lock. Suppose I release the lock D first. After that, I release the lock AB, and then I release the lock A. Now you can see it is shrinking. Now you can see that it is saying that the shrinking phase. Okay. The growing phase means the first you acquire the data item, non data item can be released, and shrinking phase existing locks held by the transaction may be released, but new lock cannot be acquired because new lock acquired only held in the growing phase. Okay. So this is the example of the two-phase locking protocol. So phase one, it is saying that the transaction lock sharing, lock exclusive, unlock A, unlock B, lock C, unlock A, unlock B. Means that suppose it is held by the some other transaction this phase. So what is the growing phase here for the transaction T1? 0 to 3 is the your step. If I say that the 0 to 1 to 3 is the growing phase of the transaction, and sinking phase is to 5 to 7. For transaction T, what is the growing phase? It is started from the 2. So this is the your growing phase, and this 2 is the your sinking phase from this step. The protocols are the different type, because when I following the your concept of the two-phase locking protocol, so there is a chance of the deadlock there. Okay. So that is the reason we can say that we can follow the idea of the strict two-phase locking protocol. The first phase of strict two-phase is similar to the PL, means the here I can only acquire the all the lock. The transaction continue to execution normally. The only difference between 2PL and strict 2PL is that strict 2PL does not release the lock after using it. Earlier, what we have seen that if I release the lock, okay, if I release the lock that after the using, it may be possible that the item read the value, and after that, suppose first transaction fail, the second transaction also roll back, because you know that the dirty read concept. So strict two-phase locking protocol is saying that the in first phase same as the your 2PL, but second phase is saying that the in 2PL after the use of the your transaction we release it, but it will be not released until the transaction commit there. So it is a little bit strict, because earlier we are releasing the lock after use, but it is not releasing the lock after the. So up to this I'm covered, because many things we have covered that. Okay. So any doubt till now? Hello? Any doubt?
No, sir.
So already we have covered many parts, so I'm not going to the next any other thing. Okay. I'm going to stop the PPT. Next class we can discuss this one. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So I'm going to call the attendance.
Okay, sir.